I mean, there have been times when I ran out of food, and I've literally tracked wolves and taken food away from them when they've killed caribou.
What?
Yeah.
How many wolves were there?
One time there was a lone wolf that got a caribou just ahead of me. He didn't have time to do anything except gut it for me. That's what they start eating is the guts, and he had opened up its belly and pulled the guts out, and the whole caribou was there.
Wow.
What happened that day? I was really hungry. We had run out of food. I was out there with my ex-wife, and we had...
and your kids?
Had one baby at the time.
So you're out there with a baby and you don't have any food?
The baby was fine. She was nursing.
Your wife doesn't have any food.
Yeah. Well, we always had something to eat, just not enough. But I never, ever have been out there when I didn't have something to eat every single day. Some days it was just one rabbit. Some days it was just one ptarmigan, which is very little food. But I've always been able to get something to eat. But this particular year, it was kind of early on. This was the winter 2006, 2007. I hadn't been out there that long. Made a miscalculation. I was counting on caribou showing up because so far I'd always seen a lot of caribou in the winter. That winter they didn't come. If I had known, I could have prevented the situation. But we had taken one moose. In the fall, I'd killed a moose in September. I thought, man, we got 500 pounds of meat. We're set. The caribou will come later in the winter. But it's amazing how much meat you can eat when you're not eating much of anything else. And all that I was eating at that time really was meat, fat, and maybe a cup of berries a day, that I had gathered in the fall and froze. So the moose, we went through that pretty fast. Found out that 2 adults can eat a large bull moose in 3 months, if that's all you got to eat. I've eaten by myself a large bull moose in 6 months. Yeah.
For people that don't know, a large bull moose is about 2,000 pounds.
I don't think they're quite that big, but they're probably 1,500 pounds. You probably get 500 pounds of meat.
So like a Yukon moose is like 2,000 pounds?
People exaggerate these
do
things.
they?
Oh, they exaggerate a lot of things, Joe.
So, but a big one, like a 60-inch bull, how much is that? Something like that.
That's actually what that bull was. It was about 60-inch bull.
Wow.
That one was actually 57, if I remember right. I don't pay too much attention to the exact measurements, but I think
somewhere in the range of 1,500 pounds, which is like what? How many pounds of meat you think that is?
I would guess that you probably are getting 500-600 pounds of meat out of there.
Are you taking the femurs and getting bone marrow out of them and doing all that jazz too?
Oh yeah. That's really important part of my diet when I'm living off an animal is I like variety. And the animal has a ton of variety in it. One caribou will give you so many different options in terms of food if you know how to utilize it. I've eaten everything out of a caribou except the poop, literally. You can even eat part of the antlers when they're
really?
Oh yeah, in the spring when they're growing, they're soft on the ends. It's like a pickle. You skin them, you take the velvet off. In the last inch or two, it's got the consistency of a pickle. They're great.
Really? You eat it raw?
Yeah. I eat a lot of animals raw. I eat a lot of parts of a caribou raw. But anyway, you get a lot of variety because you eat all the organs, you eat the eyes, you eat the brain, you eat the liver.
You eat the brain?
Kidney. Oh, yeah.
Really?
Spinal cord.
Whoa.
Like I said, I've eaten everything except the poop out of a caribou, literally. I mean, you can even, the cartilage, you can get all kinds of variety. And it's nutritious. It's good for you. I mean, I learned about all this from the old people that used to eat this way. I would have been reluctant to eat certain things if I hadn't been educated by other people that you can do this. I was talking to this 90-year-old woman in Fairbanks, and I asked her, so you eat the brains? Because I'm thinking, mad cow disease, prions.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, yeah, the brains are great. And then I did a little research. They've never found prionic disease in Alaska and any of the animals up there. So I was like, okay, I can start eating the brains.
That's an issue that's happening more and more here in the lower 48. You're getting a lot of CWD, which is another prion disease. Very scary stuff. It's there's parts of Wisconsin where my friend Doug Duran lives where, 50% of the deer they test positive for CWD.
Yeah.
Which is a real fatal disease and hasn't made the jump to humans yet, but they're very concerned.
And, this is coming from the deer. Like you said, there's a lot of deer. And where deer and moose live together, the moose get it. We don't have any deer. So other than moose and caribou, that's why we don't have the prionic disease.
You have no deer up there at all?
Well, moose are a deer.
A type
caribou
of deer.
are a deer, but we don't have anything other than moose and
you don't
caribou.
have blacktail, which would
Those
be,
are much further south. Down in southeast Alaska, I don't know their exact range, but nowhere near where I am.
That's interesting.
It's too harsh of a country. It doesn't, not the right habitat.
Wow. So when you take this caribou away from the wolf, how does that go down?
What happened that day was, thanks for reminding me, I'd forgotten that story. That's what we were talking about. I had a trail up the mountain. There's a lot of snow in the winter, 2-3 feet of snow. So you got to have packed trails to walk efficiently, pack them down with snowshoes and stuff, and pretty much follow the same routes. I'm following my trail to go up the mountain looking for food that day, and I came on. There were no caribou around. I couldn't find a caribou anywhere. I didn't see caribou track for like months. They're migratory. And if they happen to migrate 10 miles away, I'm not going to see them. That's out of my range. I come on a track of one caribou. It's wounded, it's bleeding, and it's being chased by one wolf. And it crosses my trail. So I start chasing him. It was real fresh. It was snowing out, and I could tell that this has just happened. This injured caribou, this wolf is chasing it up this mountain. They're right ahead of me. I got to follow this. So
you have a rifle?
Yeah. My rifle is my constant companion. I mean, that rifle goes just about everywhere I go up there. So I start just jogging up the mountain as fast as I can go. It's a 5,000-foot mountain, and this caribou is wounded pretty badly. He's bleeding almost continuously, And it's clear to me that if he doesn't make it over the top of that mountain, this wolf's going to get him. I mean, going down the other side, I don't know, but this wolf has a good chance of getting this caribou. This is usually the way they injure them, and it takes time. It's not like they just run up and knock them down,
Usually hamstring them, right?
Yeah, they'll jump on their back. I see a lot of them injured on the big muscle right here on the back leg. Is that what you mean? The hamstring? Yeah, right in here. Yeah, they'll get them in there. You find a lot of caribou injured real bad that get away. They get away with big pieces of hide ripped off of them. I killed a caribou once that only had 2 good legs. It couldn't even walk anymore.
Wow.
But anyway, I start chasing them up the hill. They're kind of zigzagging up the hill. And this caribou obviously doesn't know this mountain. It doesn't know where it's going. It heads in a direction where there's some cliffs on the other side of this ridge. And I'm getting real hopeful at this point. And I still haven't seen them. They're ahead of me on the mountain. And sure enough, the tracks come right up to the edge of the cliff, both the caribou and the wolf, and go right over the top of the cliff. And I'm like, there's no way that caribou survived getting down. Because I know this mountain like the back of my hand.